What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 22 My Team Career Mode. It's been a long time since we've done one of these, but actually the video that you are seeing was recorded all the way back in July or August, I believe. Just with my new job and with holidays and things like that, I have not had enough time to sit down and put one of these together. But I'm finally hoping to do just that. So last time out, I believe we had the Japanese Grand Prix, and we got P11. We were battling with some of the front runners, including Max Verstappen, and yeah, we almost got into the points, but not quite. And now we are here for the United States Grand Prix, which has never been a particular favorite of mine, mostly due to the first sector, the sort of windy, twisty, Maggots and Beckett's inspired section. It's never really been a big favorite of mine. I always struggle with it quite a lot, and I tend to lose a lot of time, especially compared to the AI there, so I'm hoping that shouldn't be the case. Just looking over some car parts at the moment, some engine components, hoping that all of these will last out for the duration of the race weekend. Maybe I might change out one of those components before the race actually begins, but for the time being we'll keep all of them as is. Just skip through that Pirelli hot lap, got the gold on it of course, and yeah, now we are ready to progress, look through some of the R&D investment, but I don't think we have any available to us at the moment until we upgrade our facilities, but we also don't really have the cash to afford a facilities upgrade, so things are beginning to sort of stagnate at this moment in time.
The tech regulations are changing. There's a risk some of our hard work will be undone, so we need to mitigate it. As soon as you can, I want you to look at the developments we have and tell us what areas you want to invest in protecting.
And like clockwork, we finally get to the point where the technical regulations have changed, and they changed for the chassis and durability departments. So we have quite a lot. We have, I believe, 18 upgrades to cover off. Now a few of those are supplier upgrades for the engine, so those ones will not be needing to be adapted. I think we lose those regardless, and then all engine suppliers start over. So perhaps next season might be a smart time to change our engine supplier, perhaps, as we start from square one. Especially as I don't think having this Renault engine in the back of our car has done us any favors. But anyway, I believe we actually adapted every single component that we could in that moment. So yeah, that was pretty good. We also managed to actually find some space to put another upgrade on our car. So hopefully that one will be on in time for maybe a race weekend or two away. That would be quite useful. But yeah, that was all in all, like, it was really useful that we were able to do all of that as quickly as we were able to do it. Because it stands us in pretty good stead to perhaps get ahead of some of our competitors, or at least close the gap, because we are still the worst car in the field by quite some margin, unfortunately. You know, the financial situation that we find ourselves in has not been fantastic, and we yeah, just generally find ourselves quite far behind a lot of our competitors. So that was a pretty decent session all in all. We managed to get through all the practice programs we wanted to get through. I didn't bother showing you any of it on this occasion because I didn't feel like any of it was necessary. But I was not feeling particularly strong after the session, despite the fact that we made it through the programs. As I said, Sector 1 I was finding a immense amount of trouble in still, and I'm not even going to show you where I finished in the end apparently. Like I said, I recorded this a while ago, so I don't remember every minuscule detail of what happens, but I do remember the general gist. I've still got my notes from back then, so hopefully we should be able to get through it no problem. Just going through all the development boosts now, and yeah, Robert Schwartzman now up to level 9, which is going to make him even more expensive if we choose to re-sign him for next season, which is not a given, but I do like to try and give the drivers I sign at least a season to prove themselves should they want it. Obviously, Lundgaard did not want it, so that's why we drafted Schwartzman in here. Very similar to last year. I remember I had Joe Guan Yu as my second driver for the first half of the first season, and then I had to draft in Robert Schwartzman that time as well to replace him when he did not want to come back to the team. We're just looking through once again. Now we've got our resource points, and they have recommended an upgrade for us to go for. I'm just having a look through, seeing if there's anything better that we can afford, but the answer seems to be no. So I think in the end I do end up going for that. Do I? No, apparently I don't. Well, good for me, I guess. We fit a new ICE, a new turbocharger, and I believe also a new CE and a new gearbox. Are we going to do it? Yeah, I thought so. So we're starting firmly from the back of the grid, regardless of how well qualifying goes. And I guess we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, it will be a P22 start, unless the people around us have even worse penalties than we do. Now it's time to get into qualifying, and I guess we will. I guess we'll see how things go. If my pace is anything to go by so far this weekend, then I'm not expecting to be much higher than P22 anyway. But hopefully we can at least out-qualify Robert Schwartzman. That would be the ideal goal here as we start on my first of the 2 laps that I do in this session. And yeah, right round the first corner, I actually struggle with that one quite a lot to get the sort of braking timing right, even with the line. Just because it's an uphill braking zone, you actually have to, you can brake a little bit later than you want to, and yeah, then I end up usually messing up the turn in as a result, because I've broken slightly early and I turn in a bit early as a result. Go through sector 1, and it wasn't horrible, but I still am struggling for pace through that section quite a little bit. Just can't seem to find a sort of, I don't know, a rhythm. I don't know if it's easier on a wheel. Perhaps if anyone watching this is a wheel player, perhaps they could let me know whether you find sections like Maggots and Beckett's and the S's on Kota, whether you find those particularly easy still or not. Because for me personally, I find them to be immensely challenging. Turning a little bit early at the end of the big long straight, and then I don't know what happened there, but we seem to have I seem to have edited in a cut for 10 seconds. Perhaps I was doing something stupid. I did something stupid there when I went off the track and somehow kept my lap time. Didn't get disqualified or the lap time deleted, and it's good enough for a 1:36.05, which currently puts us P4 ahead of the 2 Alfa Romeos. And by the time we come to my second lap, which I'm showing you the end of as well, I actually end up doing the exact same thing. So I guess we're struggling for aerodynamic grip quite a lot at the moment. Yeah, P15 after everyone's done their runs, and we're improving by a couple of tenths. Good enough for a 1:35.8, which puts us P11. But I messed up the timings a little bit, and I went out a little bit earlier than I would have liked to. And in the end, it's actually only good enough for P21. The only person we beat was Latifi. We did not beat Schwartzman. And yeah, qualifying to forget all around, I would say. Obviously, we're starting pretty much dead last anyway, so I guess it doesn't make too big of a difference. But yeah, with the 20 place grid penalty, I would have ideally liked to have done slightly better. Daniel Ricciardo definitely besting me in this rivalry so far. I've not had the better of my rivals in this career mode. Obviously, it's been a pointless season so far, so it does make sense that I would be comprehensively outperformed by rivals that it's throwing at me, no matter who that rival is. Despite the fact that the only team we've really been able to sort of compete on a level playing field with across the season is probably Williams, I would say. So yeah, that was qualifying. We're going to be starting in last after the grid penalties are applied, and I guess yeah, we'll get into the race.
Welcome once again then to the United States Grand Prix here in the magnificent city of Austin. It was here in 2018 that Kimi Räikkönen delighted the world by taking the top step of the podium for the first time in 114 races. There's always a record to be broken, so what I wonder is in store for us here today. We're racing today then in Travis County, Texas, where 20 corners and speeds of up to 200 miles per hour await us on this magnificent racetrack. It's 60% full throttle with plenty of good opportunities to pass, especially through the 2 DRS zones into turn 1 and the long back straight into turn 12. What a race we have in store today. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. A fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday, and it's put him on pole, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Perez, and Sir Lewis Hamilton, and Fernando Alonso, Bottas, Mick Schumacher, Magnussen, and Lando Norris, Ocon, Gasly, George Russell. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Joe, Ricciardo, Schwartzman, Alex Albon, and Yuki Tsunoda. They've taken a grid penalty. Stroll, Vettel, Latifi, and Robinson. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? And a warm welcome to Natalie Pinkham, who's beside me in the commentary box today. Why don't we discuss McLaren? What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within the team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do. And that has definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
So, a lot of penalties applied, but it doesn't make a difference. We actually end up moving behind Latifi, so I guess he had less severe penalties than we did. Charles Leclerc is 68 points ahead in the World Championship, which, if I'm not mistaken, means that he needs to outscore George Russell by 18 points, and he will close out the championship. So that is a P1 with fastest lap, and a P6 for George Russell. Get a pretty good parking, and yeah, I guess we'll see how the race goes. We'll kick things off as the lights go out, and it's a pretty decent start. Latifi and Vettel outpacing me a little bit, but I'm not like a million years behind. Go for a pretty big send up the inside of everyone from Schwartzman downwards, basically, but I think someone will probably no doubt fight back at me through this section. Ricciardo does in fact do that. And yeah, we are now into P16 after the first few corners, going through the S's section. But crucially, we've got ahead of our teammate, who I am desperate to beat, to prove that I am not just in this team because I own it, but also because I am driving on merit. Yeah, not much happening so far on this first lap. I believe that things have stayed the same, as I think as Norris goes for a bit of a dive bomb, and maybe Ricciardo on, I think that's Tsunoda, but I'm not quite sure. I go out quite wide as we go into the long straight, and yeah, now I believe it's Ricciardo and Tsunoda battling side by side quite heavily in front of me, and perhaps I can make some gains off of this. I do go up the inside of, that's actually Pierre Gasly, not Yuki Tsunoda, that's my bad. I believe it's, yeah, Gasly is 10 and Tsunoda's 22, and we get ahead of George Russell there as well. I don't know what he is doing this far down, but he needs to make some gains, and he needs to make them quickly, because he is gonna be out of the World Championship contention and handing it over to Charles Leclerc if he finishes in this position. That's for sure and certain. Leclerc would only need a P2 with no fastest lap either if George Russell is pointless in this race. So Russell is going to need to make some changes, and I think he actually dived into the pits there. Yeah, he did. So Russell, he is really going to have to work incredibly hard to be able to find his way back into this one. He must have had some front wing damage or something like that, I guess. So now we're going to go on the attack. We're going to see if we can get ahead of Daniel Ricciardo and Zhou Guanyu in front of us, and I believe that is Esteban Ocon just in front of them. Although with a number of penalties applied, it could well have been Alonso as well. I can see his name's just coming into view. It is Ocon, indeed, as expected. So I guess we'll see what happens here. But, you know, we're staying within range of the cars in front. And Gasly is very much staying directly up my arse. So it's going to be quite tight to keep him behind. Try and hold him off around the outside. But knowing the AI in this game, even with me burning my battery, this guy will have superior traction. And he's got a slightly faster engine, I believe the Honda engine in the back of the AlphaTauri, Renault engine in my car, and he's just out dragging me down as we go into the corner. I go way too deep there, and yeah, through goes Gasly, and we're into P14, but I think he may have picked up some damage or something, because as we find ourselves on lap 6 now, he is nowhere to be seen. So that was a problem for him. I think I heard it actually when he was going for the move on me. I think he sent it into the back of Ricciardo by accident. So that might explain the decision to pit from him. Albon now very close behind us as we get a little bit deeper into the race, and I'm having to put in some pretty strong performances each lap to keep him behind. Still to no real avail, as he's only 2/10 behind me as we go into the long DRS straight. DRS, of course, enabled by this point. It's gonna be tricky if I want to keep him behind. I'm gonna have to burn my battery, which I didn't start doing till quite late. And lo and behold, he does get ahead of me. I try and do the switchback on him, and now we're going wheel to wheel as we go through the ensuing corners. I just about managed to pull off the move around the outside of whichever turn that is. I definitely don't know Kota's corners by number. I wish I did, but yeah, I go around the outside of him and managed to retain. I believe this is P14 for the time being. As I said before, Williams the only car that I think we are on a sort of level playing field with. Everything else is me performing at a higher level than the drivers around me. But of course, a lot of penalties applied, and with that big dive bomb that we made on the first lap, we are managing to keep him at bay, but not for long. He actually barges into the side of us. I have to check my front wing to make sure it's not damaged, and I'm amazed to find the answer is that it's not. But yeah, he does, I think, give the place back a little bit. He tries to go for a bit of a George Russell move, but of course I recorded this long before we could consider that a George Russell move. So Yuki Tsunoda has a problem, but I'm not too concerned anyway, because Schwartzman is holding up him and the cars behind him a treat. If Schwartzman finished P16, that would be a pretty decent result for him, honestly. He has not had the rub of the green so far this season, but I don't think you can really blame him when he's been driving in a car like this, that even I haven't really been able to perform at a level that I would have liked to be performing at. I can only hope that in the following seasons, perhaps things go a little bit nicer for us. Lap 11, we managed to hold off Albon for the duration. Oh, sorry, it's lap 12 actually, at the end of lap 11 when it changed. We managed to hold off Albon for the duration of the laps following lap 6, but he remains directly behind us. So yeah, it's going to be tricky to keep him behind for much longer, I think. I will do what I can, but my tyres are pretty worn at this point. Obviously, I think his will be too, because we're on the same compound. But the AI in this game never really affected by tyre wear as much as the player is. Still getting back into the hang of the old commentary thing. I haven't done it for almost 3 months, so if I stumble over my words, please please just bear with me. So Albon goes for a little move down the inside. He will have the DRS here, because the DRS detection point is far behind where we are at the moment, and even with my battery I don't think there's going to be much hope of me making this one happen. So he gets ahead of us. We try and dive down the outside, but he parks his car beautifully on the apex, and yeah, he has made the move happen. But I am pitting this lap. We'll see whether he is or not, and I don't know, perhaps we can pull off an undercut, perhaps he'll pull off not an overcut, but something equivalent to that. Although, no, I didn't get ahead of him. That was just me coming into the pits that made it look like I was marginally ahead of him. So yeah, perhaps he can extend the gap by staying out longer. We go on to the hard compound tyres for the rest of the race. 15 laps, my mistake. And we come out just behind George Russell, number 2 in the championship at the moment. And he really is having a very number 2 race, if I do say so myself. 19th at the moment. He has got ahead of Albon as we move on to lap 14. But yeah, I think this championship is going to be Leclerc's for the taking. I don't know where he is at the moment for obvious reasons. But yeah, I can't see Russell getting back into this one with only 14 laps to go. And he's still down in 18th. That damage on lap 1 after taking that penalty really did not serve him well. We go for an audacious move at the end of the DRS zone there and actually make it work. So we're ahead of Alex Albon and back into P19 for the time being. Obviously still a number of cars ahead who are yet to pit, and we will find out where that stands us after we get through the entirety of the pit stop phase. That is Schwartzman coming in, and yeah, I guess we'll see where we are after a few laps that everyone's pitted. I don't know if there was really a split strategy in this race. Quite often you'll see a few people starting on the hards. I don't know who started on the hards in this race. I don't think many people did. I think most people started on the mediums. And yeah, here we are on lap 18, and we're in P13. I assume because Alonso had an unscheduled pit stop, which put him onto the soft compound tyres, and perhaps Magnussen did too by the looks of things. Me and Albon now going wheel to wheel on lap 18. This has been a really close fight with him all throughout this race. It's actually kind of unbelievable. He obviously gets ahead because I have to back out as we go through the S's, otherwise we were going to have a crash. The AI not want to back out in this game, for better or for worse. And yeah, so far we have had one hell of a battle. Probably one of the best battles I've had all season, to be quite frank. I'm trying to think back to some of the previous battles that I've had with some of the other drivers, and nothing really is sticking out in my mind to contend with this one. Let me know if you can think of any that were perhaps as intense as this one has been between me and him. I'm desperate to beat him and prove that we can at least finish ahead of one team. And yep, I just about get ahead of him again at the DRS zone, and once again we find ourselves in P13 as we come on to, I believe, lap 19 is just around the corner. I don't think there's any way he can get past me before then, at least. So we move around now to lap 19. Albon just behind me. Alonso right on the gearbox of him. And on the soft compound tyres, I think it is only a matter of time before he gets ahead of us as well. Verstappen is on the soft compound tyres, and he suddenly has dropped down to P12. So, yep, he's out. I wonder if there'll be a safety car or something equivalent. I do not think so. But, yeah, he, I don't think, was in championship contention anyway. If he was, I think he would have needed a miracle to make it happen. Because I think George Russell was at 8 points ahead of his nearest contender, which means Leclerc would have been 16 ahead. And we'll see what happens. So Verstappen loses a bit of his front wing there as he goes into the side of, I think that was Carlos Sainz. And, yeah, then he just pulls over with a smoking engine to the side. I don't know if those two things were related or not. Whether losing a bit of his front wing caused his engine to blow up. Actually, maybe it wasn't him, because he's got his front wing end plates. So, yeah, I'm wondering maybe if that was Sainz who lost his front wing and not Verstappen. Alonso now going for a move on me as we move on from that particular replay and into a different replay camera. Albon just behind him. Magnussen a little bit off in the distance. I'm quite desperate to get ahead of Alonso, even if he is on the soft compound tyres. I want to maximise my position in this race. I'll be up to P12 now, and we're not a million miles off the points. Alonso locks up there, which allows me to get through. Him and Albon go wheel to wheel, but Alonso should have the superior traction. Here we are now at the end of lap 19, onto lap 20, and yeah, my assertion about Sainz was in fact correct. He must have been the one that got the front wing damage from that contact with Verstappen. So Lord knows why Verstappen was doing that. Perhaps his engine was already failing and he was taking like an evasive line and just slightly went into the side of Sainz. That's like all I can think of as to why that would have happened. But gutting for Sainz, who I believe was also actually in the championship hunt pre this race. I'm not 100% sure about that, but yeah, that will not be nice for him. I think Alonso is going to size up a move up the inside. We'll see if we can keep him behind. He will have the superior traction. He will have the DRS. We have the same engine in the back of our car, but it's not enough. And yep, he just goes blitzing past, I assume with superior drag reduction or something to that description. Try and go around the outside. Try and switch back on him when we realize the outside isn't going to work. Nothing is going to work. He has made that move happen. And yeah, I guess we'll see what happens for the rest of the race now. I would bitterly love to have points, but Russell is 11 seconds up the road, and I just don't think that is going to be realistic to make up the difference. Even if it's not Alonso, or if it's not Russell, sorry, it could be someone else. And yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what is happening with that. But yeah, for the time being, we're in P12, and Alonso actually pits as we come to the end of lap 21. So I don't know what happened with him. Perhaps his soft top, yeah, because Magnussen's pitting as well. I think they went onto the softs earlier, and they're doing some kind of two-stop, which is, I mean, not the strategy here, honestly. Carlos Sainz is 6.5 seconds behind, and we're in P11. And now we come onto the penultimate lap, and Sainz is just 1 second behind. We'll see if he can retain this P11, unless Zhou Guanyu has a whoopsie. I would say it is fairly confident that we are not going to be getting up into P10 ahead of him and Russell. We'll see if we can hold Carlos Sainz, Ferrari driver, I believe the best car on the grid. We'll see if we can hold him behind just until the end of this lap to match our season best result of P11, which we also got in Japan. But one thing is for certain, this was recorded, and Japan also was recorded shortly after they addressed the AI balance issues, and it seems to have worked. Maybe even too much, because I've got 2 P11s in the worst car, so who knows. But it is P11, we do finish ahead of Carlos Sainz, and not a bad race from us, kept out of trouble. A nice battle with Albon all the way through, basically, and we get the better of him, and it's good enough for driver of the day, which is something you love to see. And if I'm not mistaken, Charles Leclerc is the world champion. He's doing donuts just to celebrate. I don't know if there's still cars on track. That looks a little bit dangerous to me, but I don't think he cares. He has dethroned Max Verstappen, who was doing his damnedest to try and get a second world championship in a row. It's not going to happen for him. Sergio Perez is third, Hamilton is second, and yeah, Leclerc takes the win to seal the championship. Not something you see every day, someone winning and closing the championship on a win. Obviously, that happened with Verstappen last year. This year, it kind of happened, but I don't know if I'm going to count it because he wasn't technically on track. But yeah, you know, historically, I feel like Lewis Hamilton, his championships, you know, I remember the one when he was in Mexico and he finished like P8 or P9 to claim the championship. It's always much nicer when you win to claim the championship. So congratulations to Charles Leclerc, and hopefully someday we'll be up there competing with him. And yeah, that is the story of the USA Grand Prix. Not the most involved race I've ever had. We had some pretty good overtakes at the beginning, some pretty good battles with the likes of Albon, Gasly, Alonso to an extent, even though he was on soft compound tyres on a much faster car. But yeah, not a too bad a race overall, I would say. If I can have races like that every weekend, perhaps sneaking into the points here and there, that'd be good. But what that does mean is that our season objective of 2 points finishes, we have to now score in 2/3 of the remainders of the race if we want to achieve that season objective. I'm tripping all over my words right now.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. Ferrari continue to extend the gap at the top of the table. Meanwhile, good work from Aston Martin this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. Well, what an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
So we do get ahead of Stroll in the World Championship. We, for some reason, don't look at the Drivers' Championship. I don't think Ferrari have quite closed it out yet, because Carlos Sainz has not done quite well enough to seal it for them. And I think Hamilton and Russell technically are still in the hunt, but I would say it is only a matter of time. I wasn't the only one that did a dive bomb on the first lap. You see Zhou Guanyu there also has gone for a cheeky dive bomb on turn 1. There was where we got muscled out by Ricciardo, and I don't think there are too many highlights if I'm not mistaken, because I mean all we had really were the battles with Albon, but you know, it was just a few overtakes here and there, nothing too big, nothing serious. I think we got the going out wide moment there again as I tried to swoop around the outside of Gasly. Didn't quite work, but you know, you never know if you don't try, huh? I think now we need to start considering who our teammate for next season is going to be. I think it's going to have to be another someone who is not on the 22 grid in real life, because they are just far too expensive for our team to afford with our current budget and our current intake. So it's either going to be a renewal for Schwartzman, see if we can apologise profusely to Lundgaard and see if we can get him to come back, or perhaps we will sign our third rookie in just 2 seasons. I hope. Probably my number one choice would be retaining Schwartzman, I would say. But there are some drivers I'd quite like to see. With 2 drivers retiring, I wonder who the hot property to come into Formula 1 in the ensuing season is. I think actually Piastri would probably be one of the number 1 choices. But then you've also got, the likes of Théo Pourchaire. You've got I'm trying to think who else was in Formula 2 in 2021 who was doing quite well. I think annoyingly Dan Ticktum actually was quite good, so I wouldn't be too surprised if we saw him on the grid. Who else had decent performance? Zhou Guanyu obviously came 3rd in the championship that year, and he's already in Formula 1. Schwartzman was alright. I can't really remember anyone else from that season, but I guess we'll see what happens. Maybe Felipe Drugovich, the current Formula 2 champion. But that's going to be all for this occasion. We had a pretty decent race. I think I don't remember where Schwartzman came. I think it was like 15th or 16th. So pretty solid performance from him either way. He kept out of trouble on this occasion. We managed to get both of our bonuses, which is always good. And now we're going to be looking at potentially upgrading one more facility before the end of the season, but we do have to keep enough in bank to afford a contract renewal or a contract signing. But I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.